Hi, I'm Angel with Shannon Fabrics and FleeceFun.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really fun pinwheel pillowcase. It's fun, it's bright, it's vibrant. Oh, speaking of vibrant, it's made from the Cuddle Charm pack. Very vibrant. Can you say that 5 times fast? For this project, you will need the following. For this project, you will need 3 very vibrant Cuddle Charm kits from Shannon Fabrics, 2/3 of a yard of coordinating cuddle fabric for the back, 6 large 1.5-inch buttons in coordinating colors, thread, iron, pressing cloth, scissors, walking foot, rotary cutter, ruler and mat, and sewing machine. Alright, now we are actually going to be using a basic quilt block. So you could conceivably use this block to make an entire quilt, but we're just going to be making a pillowcase with it today. So first I'm going to show you how to make the basic block and then how we bring it all together to make the pillowcase. So now that you have all your items, let's get started. This pillowcase is made up of 6 of these pinwheel blocks. Each block is made up of 6 5-inch squares. Decide how you want your entire pillowcase to look like. Each block has 4 squares as the base and 4 blades, each blade is half a square, on the pinwheel. Now that you know how you want it laid out, let's make a block. Alright, looking good. Next step. Take 2 squares that will make 4 blades of the pinwheel and cut them in half diagonally. You should now have 4 triangles. Then, using an iron on low heat, fold the triangles in half with wrong sides together and press. You might want to use a pressing cloth for this. Now, in prepping this block, you will have these squares that you will need to iron in half, or these triangles, I should say. When it comes to ironing cuddle fabric, it's more like a gentle suggestion to the fabric that this is the direction you want to go. Typically when you're quilting, you're using cotton and you can really get a nice crease in it and it's stiff and it's that beautiful crease and it's sharp. You can't do that with cuddle fabric. It does not work. You have to lightly suggest to the cuddle fabric that this is the direction you want to go. Your iron needs to be on low, it needs to be set to synthetics. Test it out on a test piece before you do it. Make sure your iron isn't too hot or it'll melt your fabric, it'll melt onto your iron, and it will ruin your day, basically. So test it out. If you're worried about it, put a presser cloth between you and the iron. That way, if anything happens, at least your iron is okay. And put, like I said, a gentle crease in it. When it comes to cuddle, you just need to be careful because that beautiful softness comes from all those fibers, and if you melt them, it goes away. So when you press something in cuddle fabric, it's more like gently suggesting to the fabric, here's a suggestion, please just bend this way. It's one of the curses and blessings of cuddle is that softness, and you have to work with it. So be careful when you iron it. Lay out your pinwheel. Place 1 blade on each block with the longest side of the triangle lining up with the edge of the square it's sitting on. Make sure all the blades are pointing in the same direction. Note, on the exposed edges the blade will be raw. Since we are working with knit fabric, it's fine. Pin and baste each blade to the square it sits on using a slightly less than a 1/2-inch seam allowance. Then, using a 1/2-inch seam allowance, sew 2 of the squares together to form a row, twice. Then sew the 2 rows together to make a block. Trim the seam bulk in the center of the block, and making sure all the blades are laying in the correct direction, sew on the center button. Repeat 5 more times to make a total of 6 blocks for the pillowcase. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. You're like, Angel, this would be so much easier if I just smooshed it all in like layers. I just put the triangle in between and just sewed it. I don't need to baste it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, I am having you do it the harder way. I'm just going to be honest on that one. However, if you are not used to sewing on cuddle fabric or you are still a beginning sewist, you have to do it this way or you're not going to succeed. I'm just going to be honest with you. However, if you are experienced with cuddle fabric, yeah, you can do it that other way. I'm not going to guarantee it's going to turn out as nicely. Okay, I'm going to be honest on that one. But yes, you can do it the other way. However, you do have more of a chance of the fabric sliding when you put 4 layers of cuddle together like that and sew it without any basting stitch on it at all. So really, that's up to you. Me, I prefer to have the basting stitch there. The block just turns out nicer for me, especially since because of the triangle, it has the 2 slippery sides together. So I'm going to let that be your call, but this is how I do it. Then sew the blocks together. Now, the rule of the day is just pin. When in doubt, put in another pin. You just need to use lots of pins when it comes to this. And something that I found that worked really well is, especially on the really bulky seams that you have to go across, if you put a pin on each side of the seam, like right next to it, it helps it line up a lot easier. So, just a little trick I learned. 2 of the blocks aren't quite wide enough for a pillow, so we need to take 6 squares and cut them in half to add a little width to each side of the pillow. Take the half blocks and sew them into rows to match your pattern. Add 1 to the top and 1 to the bottom of your pinwheel blocks. To make the pillowcase long enough, we need to add a column of squares to the end. This will be 4 blocks tall with a half block on each end. Sew the squares together. Then, taking the long column, take the raw edge that will be the end of the pillowcase under 1/2 inch. Sew down using a straight stitch. Then, sew the column onto the end of your pinwheel blocks. Out of your solid back, you will need to cut a rectangle that is 21 inches by 28 inches. Turn under the end of the pillowcase 1/2 inch and sew using a straight stitch. With right sides together, sew the solid back to the pillowcase front using a 1/2 inch seam allowance around 3 sides, leaving 1 side open. Trim your threads. And you're finished. You have this beautiful pillowcase. It's fun. I mean, right? I mean, how can that not? It just looks like happy. That's what happy looks like, right? Just colorful and bright and fun. It's a really great project, and I know it would also make a beautiful quilt, too. If you liked this project and tutorials, there are several others on Shannon Fabrics' YouTube channel that I know that you'll enjoy. You can also check out their blog. They have great guest posts by sewists such as myself with great ideas and patterns for you to also enjoy. And be sure to check out Shannon Fabrics at your local independent fabric retailer. And if they don't carry Shannon Fabrics, you should ask them why. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, it's really good fabric. Have a great day. Shannon Fabrics, making the world a softer place.